There was empires in Africa called Kush, Timbuktu, where every race came to get books. My success to you, even if you wish me the opposite. Sooner or later, we'll all see who the prophet is.
Welcome to gotkushTV, your UK's #1 conscious platform. I'm Durmutav and we are here at the GKTV studios with the Reparations UK expert Esther Stanford. Khosa, after the successful Emancipation Day, 1st of August Reparations March that took place from Brixton to House of Parliament? Yeah, the House of Parliament. We got to the Houses of Parliament, we got there eventually, even though they tried to hold us up. And we're here to give you an in-depth interview with Esther, GKTV exclusive, with Durmutav and Esther Stanford, where we're going to be discussing all about the various issues that may have arisen on the day. And also as well, we'll be discussing the way forward, as many of you have been asking how we're going to harness the great energy that took place on the 1st of August, Emancipation Day, in London, UK. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Esther once again to the GKTV studio. Thank you very much for coming in for us, and at short notice as well.
Thank you. Good to be back again.
Thanks. And first and foremost, congratulations on a successful, she raises her eyebrows, but it is congratulations on a successful march in terms of the outcomes. 4,000 to 5,000 people estimated joined you in London and the rest of the organisations. Tell me a little bit about how the day actually went and how you perceived it to be.
Yeah, well actually first of all thanks are due to our people who turned out on the march and made the march what it was. That's where we really have to give the thanks, because even though some of us were on an organising committee for the march, we were facilitating a march on behalf of our people, and if our people didn't come out, we would not have had any march. So thank you to each and every one of you, especially those who came with your families and brought your children, some of our elders, some who were even sick or infirm, you know, so a great thank you to our people.
Yeah, it was good to see a lot of, as you say, families, a lot of women came out with 2, 3, 4 kids, pushchairs. A lot of people in their wheelchairs as well,
absolutely.
And walking sticks, but felt the need to be there. I know there's a lot of naysayers out there who feel we're totally wasting our time. So first and foremost, on the actual day itself, what the whole operation was about was not only giving our voice to the reparations cause, or the asking of the UK government to recognise the crimes that have been committed and in some way compensate the African diaspora, African Caribbean diaspora I should say. And we strove to get a down to Downing Street with a petition. So like I said, from your point of view, how do you feel the whole day went? Because I know it's a bit of a whirlwind for you.
Oh my goodness.
So after taking stock.
Well, you know what, I'm still reflecting, but what I would say is it was good that our people turned out, because as you said, there were great challenges in us actually facilitating this march on behalf of our people, not least because of, I think, a lack of understanding or understanding, should I say, about what some of those challenges were, especially as organisers. There's in every movement, because we have a reparations movement, there are politics, you know, there are politics within the movement, and the people who are kind of like the ordinary members of the public are not always aware of some of those dynamics, but there was a real concerted effort and some of us would go so far as to say on the part of the British state, to ensure that our people did not march in the streets. A concerted effort to divert us away from that political action that we commenced last year on the 1st of August. Well, in truth, it began before that, but the visible display, the culmination of all the behind-the-scenes organising, debating with one another, dialoguing with one another, coming up with principled, unified standpoints, not just because we're all a happy family, but because actually there's been even a battle of ideas around what are reparations, what is to be repaired, who is to be repaired, who are the leaders of this movement, who speaks for who. So those were some of the challenges. We were told, for instance, and this is something people may not be aware, we were told that there would be a march, a bicycle race on the 1st of August, which is why there couldn't be a march. Well, actually, the cycle race was on the 2nd of August. And so even the route that we took last year, we took a different route over Lambeth Bridge this year.
I wasn't happy about it.
Yeah, a lot of us.
I went last year. I wasn't really happy.
A lot of us were not happy about it.
This is where we are talking about the behind-the-scenes shenanigans, and what we want to get across is just off of the last 2 years, we can see the impact that it's having on the establishment and on the state, because we're in year 2. It's not every week or every month that a large amount of black people get together and unify for a cause. So for me personally, for them to put that cycle race in and around the 1st, 2nd of August was blatantly trying to interfere
with our democratic rights to protest.
Rise up, there'll be no change. We'll stay enslaved until we fight the system and its ways. Don't be afraid, just be the change. And with all this people power, we'll use peace for power. Hey, until we rise up, there'll be no...
This was a form of protest. Let's be very clear about that. Marches are used as part of protest actions. It's about us visibly displaying our strength, our capacity to organise, walking through the streets with our placards and our banners and our chanting, with our political messages, showing the whole world, not just somewhere in a nice place where we're almost as though acting as though we're on a reservation, but actually out on the streets where everybody can see us. And this is what they were trying to avoid. Because of what message did that show to the world? One of the things that we noticed again this year was the absence of mainstream, whatever that is, reporting of the march. Again, this is all deliberate, because they do not want this example of people of African heritage in Britain, in our numbers, with our families, unified in a peaceful protest around this great cause and sacred cause of reparations. Also, what we should note here is that even though our people do go on demonstrations and rallies and all kinds of things, a lot of the time these are organised by
socialists,
the white left,
white liberals,
white liberals,
who feel that okay, we're all human beings, but we still enjoy a certain amount of...
So, they don't mind having us on their marches with their narrative, even the anti-austerity protests, which are relevant to us, because we've been in austerity for actually hundreds of years. Yeah, we're the original ones who austerity has been perpetrated on.
It said that when there is a recession, the Caucasians, they may get a cold, but we get pneumonia.
There you go,
so,
there you go.
What you're saying is that.
And so, there was even from some of those people who are, people within our community, our so-called brothers and sisters, there was a lot of thinking that we couldn't do it, that we couldn't organise outside of the institutions and the infrastructures of the so-called white, progressive, liberal left. And so what we showed is that African people are determined to organise ourselves, speak for ourselves, represent ourselves and we can do it. And so there are so many people actually quite afraid of what that represents, because it's about resources, it's about money, it's about, you know, claiming to speak for us and somehow have this moral legitimacy to choose our leaders, choose our spokespersons, and actually obliterate our original, authentic, autonomous voices.
I think the key statement you've already made within this interview is us unifying peacefully.
Yes.
Yeah, because guaranteed, if it was some form of violent protest, the mainstream media be all up in showing that to the world. But as you said, showing Nubian, Melanite families getting together peacefully to embarrass the UK government and establishment into acknowledging their crimes and also giving some compensation, and to show that to the whole world is a no-no, really and truly. And as we said, I mean, changing the route on us. Let's talk about that part first. Coming down Lambeth Bridge, I have already said to you, off camera, I've said to you, it's like they wanted us to come through the back door. They didn't want us to come through the front door, because, as I said, the beauty for me was having gone on the march the year before and seeing the impact we had when we came over Westminster Bridge.
With all those tourists and
with all the tourists and the noises coming through the tunnel and the people in the offices, it grabbed everybody's, literally grabbed everybody's attention. All the tourists stopped taking pictures of the River Thames and of the House of Parliament and started taking pictures of us. So obviously, having viewed last year's march, they didn't want that to happen again, and not only that, coming up Parliament and the way they tried to limit us from also going down Downing Street, and that for me was outrageous, because if we elect the members of Parliament and if we elect the ministers and Prime Minister, surely we have a right to go down their street, being that as you say, most of us came in peace, most of us came with our families, we didn't come to cause any trouble, we just came to exercise, like you said, our democratic rights. So it's interesting thus far to see the extent the state is going to, and how the officers that were pretending that they were facilitating us were very much smiling in our faces, yet when they recognise, okay, we succumb to the first demand of not going over Westminster Bridge but going over Lambeth. But when they try to stop us now at Parliament and seeing people getting agitated and saying, no, this isn't right, you can actually literally see the thought process work, and then it come to people's voices like saying, no, we're going as far as at least the grass verge on and in and around Downing Street. So we'd like it to be known to the establishment for next year we intend to go across Westminster Bridge.
Well, absolutely.
We can pave the way. Let's start today. Activate the spirit within. Even if we lose together, we win. We win. Yeah. Looking at the social boundary.
Absolutely. I mean, this year there was a huge battle, as I said, even for us to have the march. Because even though it was agreed last year, unfortunately there were some who were part of that agreement who did not, comply with that agreement that our people expressed they wanted to do. And unfortunately, many of our people don't always realise that sometimes when they're talking about, oh, you just need to unite, there are real issues and challenges why that doesn't appear to be happening, simply because the reparations movement is not a unified movement. No social movement is. And the reparations movement is a social movement. You always have different tendencies, different ideological tendencies, different political tendencies, different spiritual, religious tendencies. So even though we're all talking the language of repair and reparations, there are different conceptualizations and visions of what our ultimate destination should look like. And that sometimes determines not only the strategy, but the tactics that we use. So some might have felt, well, we want a more behind closed door strategy that wasn't about putting people out onto the streets. And so where it appears as though there is disunity, it is because you often get some who are standing for some principles and values and others who stand for something else. So this is something that, you know, I say this in all honesty because one of those people that kind of inspires me, who I learn a lot from, one of our great leaders who unfortunately was assassinated as a result of taking some of these principles stance, is somebody called Amilcar Cabral, one of the independence leaders of Guinea-Bissau. And he has this fantastic quote that I want to repeat here. He said, "We should hide nothing from the masses of the people. We should tell no lies. We should expose lies wherever and whenever they are told. We should mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures, and we should claim no easy victories." So we cannot claim any easy victories, because if we tell lies about a recent history that we've all been part of, none of us, you know, we're alive. We're not talking about what happened 50 or 100 years ago or 5,000 years ago. This is right before our very eyes, and we have a duty to speak the truth. We can compromise, brother, with each other on many, many things, but on principle and on truth, there can be no compromise.
I would agree, and with that said, with all of the different political battles internally and externally, for those listening who might be liking what they're hearing, seen the pictures of the march, social media, and in various print. I know The Voice did an article on it as well, even though they didn't get in contact with Esther, but no worries. It's all publicity at the moment.
Yeah, they didn't get in contact with anybody part of the organising committee for this African People's Reparations March, which is unfortunate. Because the article that's actually been published yesterday, you know, many of you will see it. It's also available online, and there was a missed opportunity to actually tell the story of those who were facilitating the march, who have been working with the people, not since last year in truth, but, you know, for over a decade at least. In terms of the recent phase of the movement. And so there's an evolving strategy, an evolving movement, and we're learning and we are growing together, learning from our mistakes as well as from our successes.
So we're talking to the people, explaining to the people first and foremost at this present time. Like I said, many would have seen the publicity surrounding the Reparations Day March, and maybe feeling that they'd like to get involved with what is happening first and foremost. Questions that have been fired at me is organisers. Yeah. Overall, the organisers are pretty pleased with the outcome of what took place, because as we said, there were many challenges, yes. And despite those challenges, we did manage to get 4,000 to 5,000 people out, which brought a smile to our faces. So what would be now the next step for the organisers in letting the people be aware of the way forward?
Until we rise up, there'll be no change. We'll stay enslaved until we fight the system and its ways. Don't be afraid, just be the change. And with all this people power, we'll use peace for power. Hey, until we rise up, there'll be...
Okay, well, we have some ideas about a way forward, but in truth, what we are planning to do is have a public meeting on Friday the 11th of September that will be taking place in Brixton. I would invite you to, I know not everyone's on Facebook, but for those of you that are, the March August Facebook page, but we will be sending out information via email and community radio stations and other community organisations and every channel of communication that we can find, so as many people as possible get to know, because we're in the process of reflecting. You know, we did say this was a learning march. It's what we call action learning, which is where we learn to do something better in the process of doing it. And so even though many of us have been on marches before, we haven't been on a march like this. And there was so much learning, bringing together people with all different agendas and different organisations and different beliefs and different ideologies, it's going to be a challenge. Yeah. And so what we need to do is we need to reflect, we need to assess, we need to evaluate and re-evaluate, and that is the process that we want to be engaging in at least for the next 6 weeks or so. And we want to invite especially those of you that came out onto the march, and even those of you in truth who were not on the march, you can still be part of a process, because you might be hearing things, you might not have been able to come for good reason. So we are going to be having this public meeting, as I said, on Friday the 11th of September. The venue to be confirmed, but it will most likely be somewhere in South London or probably Brixton. And we are particularly interested in hearing from people who were on the march what they liked about the day, what they felt worked well, what was successful, but also, and very importantly, how can we make improvements? Yeah, that is the key bit, really. Yeah, how can we make improvement? How can we make it better? You know, and we have to, it really are, please, we are saying be patient with us. Let's be patient with each other, because this didn't just happen yesterday. It took actually a long time for us to get into this situation, centuries in fact, and the repair process in truth has been a long time too. So let us just have that patience with each other, because we are doing something that in a way has not ever been done, and we are doing it with very limited resources. With all the resources in the world, yes, we'd probably be much more brilliant, but we are relying on the goodwill of our people, because it's their struggle, it's their movement, and it is their march. But equally, the march forms part of the column of the international social movement for African reparations, otherwise known as the ISMAR. And so once we get this feed forward from our brothers and sisters and those who are on the march, it helps us to, you know, have a more collective oversight about the various questions that we're asking. We're also interested in knowing how many people feel they learnt anything through not only physically coming out onto the march, but the whole process of being involved. How much more do we know about reparations? How much do you know or feel confident that you're aware of the purpose of the petition? So this is part of what we need to be evaluating and reassessing for ourselves as well, because we want to get better. Once we've collated that, then we'll be able to, in a consultative way, in an inclusive way, have a better idea about the ways forward in terms of what the collective are saying. But certainly as those who are facilitating an organising process, we do have some thought processes that in truth have been informed by the organising thus far. We are going to get to the place where there'll be local organising committees, especially in London, and also regional organising committees around the march. We're not waiting until January of next year to plan for this march in August. In truth, the work is not stopping. We might be taking a few weeks to get an evaluation process together, but we are going to be helping to facilitate through those who are organising already locally and regionally processes of engagement, because we have this theme that is going to continue throughout the coming year, that education is part of the preparation for reparations. So we have a structured process, and we have a series of educational programs, trainings, workshops. We're also encouraging town hall type meetings that we can bring on board a lot of our people. So as many of our people are aware about what's going on. And this is important given the fact that we have to be our own media. I mean, we do have brilliant institutions like yourselves, media institutions like yourself, who've been doing a great job, and I know will continue to do a great job in supporting us to get this message out. But equally, we need to enlist the support of as many of our people as possible, so that we are sharing the information and assisting those media experts and professionals like yourselves at gotkushTV.
System and its ways, don't be afraid. Just be the change. And with all this people power, we'll use peace for power.